So, you think you're being followed? Welcome. We have snacks. The snacks are invisible because someone probably took those too. I'm joking, mostly, but notice something. I can make that joke right now. There was a time when this subject had no humor in it at all. Just fog, just the specific weight of being right about something that nobody around you would confirm, and the slow erosion of your ability to trust the instrument that was telling you the truth. I need you to stay with me today, not because this is comfortable, because what I'm about to give you is the most clarifying thing anyone has ever said to you about what happened. And clarity. Every tradition that has ever produced a genuine healer is unanimous on this, is worth considerably more than comfort. Comfort passes. Clarity stays. Here is the first truth, and I want you to receive it in your body, not just your mind. What happened to you was not random, not coincidence, not paranoia, not because something is wrong with you. It was because something is profoundly, specifically, cosmically right with you. And today I am going to prove that using the oldest documentation available to human civilization, texts so old from so many independent sources, confirming each other so consistently that the pattern they describe is beyond dispute. Stay with me all the way through, because the part that changes everything is at the end, and you need everything before it to land correctly before you can receive what's there. Let us begin with Job, not the sanitized version. The actual text, read with the precision it deserves and the context that makes it useful. Job was the most spiritually powerful soul in his environment. The text establishes this immediately and explicitly. Blameless and upright, one who feared God and turned away from evil. In the esoteric reading, this describes a soul operating at maximum frequency, the highest mirror available in the landscape. And the adversary, the Satan, which translates as the opposer or the accuser, not the cartoonish villain of later mythology, had to appear before the divine court and negotiate access to Job. Not simply attack him, negotiate. Because the protection around a genuinely light-bearing soul operates at a level that the adversarial force cannot breach unilaterally. It required a level of permission that was outside the adversary's own authority. Think about what this means for your situation. The adversarial force had to ask. There was a sovereignty around Job that the opposition could pressure but could not simply override. Now, the campaign was run, everything external stripped, property, family, health, reputation, the full coordinated assault executed with precision across multiple vectors simultaneously. And Job's response, the one we never hear in the polite version, the one that makes religious authorities uncomfortable, was not serene acceptance, was not faithful endurance, was not the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away, blessed be the name of the Lord delivered with gentle resignation. Job said, I wish I had never been born. Job said, let me die. This is enough. Job said, I am in the right, and what is happening to me is unjust, and I will not perform acceptance of it. This is the voice of a Heyoka under sustained targeting, honest to the point of furious, specific about the injustice, absolutely unbroken. And God's response, in one of the most remarkable passages in all of Scripture, is not a rebuke of Job's anger, is not an instruction to be more patient or more faithful or more appropriately humble. It is an invitation, an expansion. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Can you see from the vantage point of the thing that called you rather than from the ground level of the thing that targeted you? Can you expand your frame of perception beyond the immediate suffering to include the scope of what is happening? Not a rebuke, an invitation to see more. And what Job receives at the end of the ordeal is described as double what he started with. This is not compensation theology, a cosmic vending machine that returns suffering with equivalent reward. This is a statement about what happens when the fire has burned away everything that was not the real thing. What remains is more than what was there before the fire began, because everything that was obscuring it has been removed. That trajectory, targeting, stripping, amplification, is your map. You are inside it right now. The question is whether you can expand your frame enough to see that the stripping was the preparation, not the destruction.
In 1945, in the Egyptian desert near the town of Nag Hammadi, a collection of ancient texts was discovered in sealed clay jars. 13 leather-bound codices, 52 early Christian and Gnostic writings. Many of them never made it into the canonical New Testament. They were buried for 17 centuries, and the burial was not passive. The early institutional church actively suppressed these texts, ordered their destruction, hunted their possessors, made their circulation dangerous, because these texts described a framework for reality that was incompatible with the institutional control structure that was being built. What do they describe? The Archons, a class of forces, neither fully human nor fully divine, who cannot generate their own light, who feed on the luminosity of souls carrying genuine divine spark, who maintain a controlled, fear-based, limited version of reality by specifically targeting, coordinating against, and attempting to neutralize the high-frequency souls whose presence threatens to disrupt the controlled system. And they are specific about the method: isolation of the target from their community and support systems, destruction of reputation through false testimony provided to people the target trusts, the weaponization of close relationships, turning the target's own intimates against them, the sustained erosion of the target's trust in their own perception, which is the most sophisticated move, because once you doubt your instrument for detecting what's real, you have no reliable means of investigating your own situation. Read that list again, because that is not ancient mythology. That is the playbook that was used against you, and it is documented in 2nd century texts found in a sealed jar in the Egyptian desert. The Kabbalistic tradition calls the same force the Qlifoth, the shells, the husks, what remains of a soul that has completely turned away from the source of light and exists only in the mode of consumption. The Vedic tradition calls them the Asuras. The Islamic mystical tradition speaks of the jinn who feed on human vital energy. The Tibetan Buddhist tradition names the Maras, the forces that specifically arrived at the precise moment the Buddha was closest to enlightenment, intensifying their opposition because the proximity to purpose represented a specific threat. Different cultures, different centuries, different cosmological languages, identical map. And here is what every single one of these traditions also says, without exception: the souls that were most heavily targeted were the ones carrying the most light. The opposition does not intensify randomly. It intensifies specifically in response to proximity to genuine purpose. You were not targeted because of a deficiency. You were targeted because something in the field recognized, before you fully recognized it yourself, that what you carry was approaching the kind of expression that would be genuinely inconvenient for the forces invested in keeping certain things comfortable and unexpressed. The army goes to the field where something is actually growing. Nobody deploys resources against an empty field. The scale of the campaign against you is a precise measurement of what you contain.
In the Lakota Sioux Nation, and I want to be clear again, this is a living tradition held by living people, not a historical artifact. The Heyoka is described as the most hunted archetype in existence, not the rarest, not the most powerful in an abstract sense, the most hunted. The Heyoka is the sacred mirror, called by Wakinyan, the thunder beings, through a vision that arrives without consent, without preparation, without the option of declining. From that calling forward, the Heyoka carries the mirror that reflects what is actually there, rather than what people wish or agree was there. And the tradition is explicit about what this produces. The mirror does not choose its subjects, It reflects everyone who enters its field, including, especially, the people who have invested most heavily in not seeing certain things. For those people, proximity to a Heyoka is not a gift. It is an emergency. The response that emergency produces is one of the oldest in human behavioral repertoire. Eliminate the source of the discomfort, not look at what the mirror is showing and reckon with it. That requires more courage than most people can access on demand. Eliminate the mirror, which means discredit the one who carries it. Isolate them, coordinate against them, convince them, and this is the most sophisticated move. Convince the mirror carrier that the problem is the mirror, not what the mirror is showing. Turn the mirror's own sensitivity against it. Make the Heyoka doubt the accuracy of the reflection. This is the specific Heyoka trap, and it is documented specifically in the tradition because it is what happens to Heyokas. It has always happened. It will always happen, because the mirror will always be inconvenient to the people invested in comfortable fictions. But here is what the tradition also says, and what I want you to carry forward from this section. The mirror cannot be permanently destroyed. It can be cracked. It can be covered. It can be weaponized against the one who carries it, turned inward, until what the Heyoka sees in their own reflection is the distorted version that was being projected at them rather than the real thing underneath. But it cannot be broken, because the mirror is not made of glass. It is made of truth, and truth does not shatter. Truth can be buried. Truth can be suppressed for decades, for centuries, for 1700 years in a sealed jar in the Egyptian desert, but it cannot be permanently destroyed. You are the mirror. You survived. The friction that was intended to destroy you polished it instead. This is the most specific thing I can say to you today, and I want you to receive it. You are cleaner now than before they started.
The Sufi mystical tradition, Islamic spirituality at its most sophisticated, most experiential, most direct, has a concept they call Maqam al-Ibtila, the station of the tested ones. A specific spiritual rank achieved not through learning or devotion or practice alone, but through being subjected to sustained pressure that most souls would not survive with their essential nature intact. The great Sufi teachers were, without exception, people who had been through the fire in the most literal sense, available to their time. Al-Hallaj, the 10th century mystic and teacher, was publicly executed by the Abbasid Caliphate. His crime, saying, "An al-Haq," I am the truth, which was interpreted as blasphemy, and which his own tradition understood as the most radical possible statement of divine unity available in human language. They killed the speaker. The words survived. Rumi spent decades in what he described as the fire of separation from his teacher, his companion, the one whose presence organized everything else into coherence. Ibn Arabi was condemned by religious authorities in multiple cities and spent his adult life in a kind of philosophical exile. Omar Khayyam was condemned as a heretic despite, or because of, being one of the most sophisticated scientific and poetic minds of his age. What did all of them produce from inside the fire? The most sophisticated spiritual literature of their respective eras, the works that outlasted every institution that tried to silence them. The Sufi teaching is not that suffering is good. The Sufi teaching is this: suffering that is correctly understood and correctly transmuted becomes the specific fuel for the most powerful work a human being is capable of producing. Your years of sustained targeting, every coordinated campaign, every isolation tactic, every attempt to make you doubt your own perception, correctly understood, correctly transmuted, that becomes the specific credential for the work you are supposed to be doing. Not because suffering is redemptive in some abstract theological sense, because the person who has been through the fire knows things about the fire that cannot be learned any other way. And the people who are in the fire right now, the ones who are in the middle of what you came out of, those people need someone who has been there, not someone who has read about it, someone who knows it in the body. That is you. That is the specific equipment the targeting produced. What was done to break you created the most specific and most necessary qualification you carry. The Sufis called it Maqam al-Ibtila. I call it your credential. Either way, it belongs to you.
The poet Jalal al-Din Rumi, 13th century Persian mystic, Islamic scholar, one of the most widely read human beings who has ever lived across any era, spent his entire literary output trying to say one thing in enough ways that enough people would actually hear it. The thing he was trying to say is this: the wound and the gift are not opposites. They are the same event experienced from two different temporal positions. His central image is the reed flute, the ney, cut from the reed bed, hollowed, played until the player's breath is all the way through it, and crying because it has been separated from its origin. Now, here is the part that the inspirational quote accounts consistently leave out when they post his words over sunset photographs. Rumi was not writing from a position of having avoided this. He was writing from the inside of it. His closest companion, the mystic Shams of Tabriz, the one human being in Rumi's life whose presence made everything make sense, disappeared, possibly killed by Rumi's own students who resented the influence, and Rumi spent the rest of his life producing, from the grief of that separation, the most extraordinary body of devotional poetry in human history. The Masnavi, the Divani Shams, works that are still being read, still being translated, still being sung 800 years later, because Rumi was completely, specifically, irreversibly hollowed out. And through the hollow, something moved that was larger than him. That is not a metaphor about feeling better eventually. That is a precise description of how the Heyoka's gift works. The mirror is not polished in comfort. It is polished by the sustained friction of a life in which the truth you carry is consistently unwelcome. Every year of being called too much, every coordinated campaign, every attempt to break the glass, all of it, friction, polishing. And what emerges from the friction is not what was there before the friction. It is what the friction revealed was always underneath. The thing that was always going to be the point, the thing that required the friction to become visible. You are the ney. The cutting was real, the cry is real, and the music is also real. And it is only possible because all the rest of it happened first. I want to speak directly to those watching from the psychology side of this conversation, from the narcissistic abuse recovery community, from the complex PTSD research space, from the highly sensitive person community, from the dark triad literature. Because the contemporary research confirms the ancient traditions with a precision that I find genuinely moving. Elaine Aron's research on the HSP, the highly sensitive person, identifies a trait present in approximately 15 to 20% of the population across all species and cultures. The HSP nervous system processes stimuli more deeply, notices more, feels more, picks up on subtleties that the non-sensitive person's system filters out. The research calls this sensory processing sensitivity. In difficult environments, hostile families, abusive relationships, coordinated targeting, HSPs consistently experience worse outcomes than non-HSPs. Their nervous systems are not equipped with the buffering that protects the less sensitive person from the full force of sustained hostile attention, and in supportive environments, HSPs consistently outperform non-HSPs on virtually every measure of creativity, moral reasoning, relational depth, and capacity for what Aron calls vantage sensitivity, the ability to be positively affected by positive experiences more than the average person. The same nervous system, the same mechanism, two completely different outcomes depending on the environment, which means the damage you experienced is not evidence of a deficient system. It is evidence of a highly sensitive system in the wrong environment for a very long time. Bessel van der Kolk's research confirms that complex trauma, sustained, relational, coordinated, produces damage at the physiological level, in the nervous system, in the immune system, in the stress hormone regulation system, in the brain's threat detection circuitry, and it confirms that recovery is not primarily a cognitive process. You cannot think your way through this. The damage is in the body. The healing has to reach the body. Peter Levine's work on somatic experiencing, the body-based trauma recovery modality, describes the trauma response as a survival response that got stuck. The animal that survives the predator shakes, trembles, completes the discharge of the survival energy, and returns to baseline. The human who has been subjected to sustained relational targeting does not have access to that same discharge. The energy stays stuck. The nervous system stays in emergency mode. The ancient protocol, the physical grounding, the breathwork, the cord dissolution ceremony, the soul retrieval practice, these are all, in contemporary terms, somatic discharge protocols. They work at the level where the damage lives, not the narrative level, the cellular level. The mystics and the researchers are pointing at the same territory. One has the map in ancient language, one has the map in clinical language. You get to use both. The personal testimony from the inside. I want to get personal because testimony is more useful than inspiration, and the most useful testimony is specific. There was a period of my life, sustained, layered, running from multiple directions simultaneously, that I can only describe as the coordinated fog. The specific quality of sustained targeting is not one big event. It is a sustained pattern of small events that, taken individually, are each plausibly deniable, but that taken together constitute something unmistakable. The relationships that slowly evaporated, the reputation that was quietly, consistently being reassembled into a version I didn't recognize by people I couldn't directly confront, the specific erosion of my trust in my own perception, which is the most sophisticated part and the most painful, because the instrument you rely on for detecting what's happening to you is the very thing being attacked. And here is what I most want to tell you, because it is the part that took me the longest to understand. The most damaging part of what happened was not the external campaign. It was the moment I started cooperating with it from the inside. Not by giving up, by managing, by performing the smaller version, by carefully calculating how much of the mirror to show in which context, by preemptively apologizing for the accuracy of the reflection before anyone could use it against me. That specific move, the internal collaboration with the diminishment, is the Heyoka's specific trap. And I walked into it with full awareness because I didn't yet have the framework to recognize it as a trap. It felt like wisdom, like maturity, like the flexible intelligence of someone who had learned to navigate difficult environments. What it actually was, the energetic equivalent of turning off the instrument because the sound it made was inconvenient for people who had agreed not to hear that frequency. What broke the cycle was not dramatic. It was a question from someone I trusted. What would you be doing right now if nobody had ever told you the mirror was the problem? The answer came immediately. I already knew. I had always known. The campaign hadn't taken the knowing. It had buried it under the performance. I stopped managing, not all at once, not heroically, but directionally. And in the space where the management had been, something began to move that had been still for years. The things I was supposed to be doing started happening, not because I became something new, because I stopped pretending to be something I wasn't. And the people who found me after I stopped managing, the ones who show up in this comment section, the ones who find their way to the Patreon, The ones who send me messages at hours of the day when they couldn't sleep and needed to know that someone else had seen what they were seeing. Those people were not looking for the managed version. They were looking for the mirror, for someone who could see clearly and reflect accurately and hold the truth without softening it for anyone's comfort. That is what your experience produced. The specific credential nobody else in the room has. The knowing from the inside. The mirror that has been through the fire and is cleaner for it. The 5-step protocol. Step 1, the inner witness, Tibetan and Quaker tradition. Every morning, before any external contact, sit, breathe until the breath reaches the belly and ask out loud, what do I actually know today? Not what I fear, not what I've been told. What do I actually know? Write the answers. 2 sentences minimum, 10 maximum. Factual, witnessed, present. This practice, done daily, rebuilds your relationship with your own perception, the primary target of sustained harassment. Step 2, cord dissolution, universal shamanic tradition, meditative state. Locate the cord, the tether to the people and systems that targeted you in your body. Do not cut, dissolve. Ice returning to water. I return to you what is yours. I call back to me what is mine. What was connected in compassion and clarity is now complete. Salt water on the hands. Stand, move, eat, ground. Step 3, physical anchoring, earth medicine. Bare feet on actual earth, direct sunlight on the skin, cold water. These are not suggestions. They are etheric body repair. The nervous system heals in the body, not the mind. Put your feet on the ground every day. Step 4, strategic silence. Not all recovery needs an audience. Keep the most sacred inner work private until it is strong enough to withstand scrutiny. The shamanic traditions practice deliberate concealment of the deepest work for exactly this reason. Step 5, return to service. The experience you survived is the specific qualification for the work you are supposed to be doing. The people who are in the middle of what you came out of need someone who knows it in the body. That is you. Go find them. The alchemy, the transformation of what tried to destroy you into what you use to build others. That is the Heyoka's most sacred work. And it begins not when the healing is complete. It begins in the doing. The 7-day activation practice. Here is what I want you to do, starting today. Not aspiring toward, actually doing. For 7 consecutive days, 7, because every tradition from the Hebrew to the Sumerian to the Buddhist uses 7-day cycles as the minimum period for genuine neurological reset. You are going to do 1 practice, 1 per day, in writing, in the morning before any screen time. Day 1, write the sentence, before the targeting began, I was becoming, and finish it. Not what you were performing, what you were actually becoming. The version of yourself that the campaign was most specifically designed to prevent. Day 2, write. The specific thing the targeting tried hardest to stop me from doing was, and finish it. This is your mission. This is the answer. Not stated philosophically, stated specifically in the language of action. Day 3, write, the people who most need what I carry are. Describe them, not generically, specifically. What are they going through? What do they need that nobody else is giving them? What could they receive from someone who has been where you've been and come out knowing what you know? Day 4, write. The specific version of me that is done performing diminishment looks like. Describe that version in full, not idealistically, accurately. What does that person say? What do they refuse to say? What rooms do they walk into? What rooms do they leave? Day 5, write 1 small act of being the actual me that I can do today is and do it. Today, not tomorrow, not when the conditions are better. Today, in whatever form is available to you. Day 6. Write. The thing I know that the people around me need to hear and that I have been managing instead of saying is, you don't have to say it to anyone today. Just write it. Let it exist in your own record. That is the beginning of the transmission. Day 7. Write. The version of me that has completed this work looks like you are writing a letter to yourself from 7 days in the future. What has changed? What is operating that wasn't before? What has been said that had been managed? What is being served that had been hidden? 7 days, 7 practices, each one building on the last. By the end, you will have a map that is specific to you, not generic spiritual content, but a precise description of what was suppressed, what it is for, and who needs it. That map is worth more than any amount of further preparation, because the preparation was never the point. The doing is the point, and the map shows you where to start. Start today, not when you feel ready. Today, the readiness comes from the doing, not before it. The final word to everyone in this conversation. I want to close with something for 2 different people simultaneously, because I think both of them are watching. To the person who has survived the targeting, you did not survive it so that you could manage the diminishment for the rest of your life. You survived it so that you could become the specific thing the fire made you. The cleaner mirror, the fiercer compassion, the discernment that was earned, not learned. That is what is waiting on the other side of the management. Stop managing. Start operating. The people who need what you carry are already looking for you. Some of them are in this comment section right now. To the people who ran the campaign, and I say this in the Heyoka tradition, which means directly without softening, and with the specific dark humor that the tradition endorses. You targeted a Heyoka. You applied sustained pressure to a mirror, and the outcome of sustained pressure on a genuine mirror is not destruction. It is polish. The person you targeted is more precisely, more accurately, more specifically effective at the exact thing you were trying to prevent them from doing. The fire did not destroy the mirror. The fire revealed what the mirror is actually made of. You also received the mirror. In your sustained proximity to a Heyoka, the reflection was operating continuously, whether you were aware of it or not, whether you wanted it or not. The mirror doesn't charge for this service. It doesn't ask permission. It functions. You came to destroy a mirror and received a healing you didn't request. The universe has a very specific sense of humor. I, personally, am a fan of it. To everyone watching, go, do what the fire made you. The mirror is clean. The people who need it are waiting. Begin. The complete Esoteric Protection Guide, Cord Dissolution Ceremony, in full daily witness practice, Ancestral Shielding Protocol, Etheric Body Repair Sequence is in the description. It goes considerably further than today. Patreon Inner Circle is where the real work happens. Small space, real people, no performance. Comment. Tell me what the targeting tried hardest to stop you from doing. That is your mission. I want to see how many of us are carrying the same one.
Subscribe. Share this with the person who has been told they're paranoid for accurately seeing what they're seeing.
Walk in truth. That is the Heyoka way. It always has been. Stay lit.